What's up? Happy Friday. It is the 18th of December and your first day in person. Actually, your last day in person in December because next week we're going remote, which means that when you would normally go to math class, whatever period you have math, you will actually be going to a Google Meet and we will meet as a class and we'll talk about what we're doing that day. It has to be at the most 30 minutes, and then the rest of the period I will be available to you. So just so you are aware, that will be for all of your classes for next week. But when you are remote, you will just be remote like you would be normally. But those are for in-person days. I hope that makes sense. If not, just send me an email. I'll try to clarify. Today is your final day of Unit 5. Woohoo! You've got simple interest, which is very exciting. I don't know if you've ever heard of interest, but it's a nice little formula for you guys to figure out how much money you can accumulate over time or how much money you would owe over time. I am going to review that warm up. I know it was a longer one. The reason why I did that is because we've been doing this separate for a little bit because I've been on quarantine and I want to make sure you guys are understanding the key concepts, especially because you have your test coming up. So let's review the warm up, and just so you can look at the agenda and know what some of that means, you do have your test coming up. The MAW is missing any work. Are you missing any work? If you are, please try to catch up on it this weekend because you do have your test coming up, as well as today is actually the end of the 5-week time period. So I am working on grades as we speak. Well, not during the video, but after the video, I'll be working on grades. So if you see anything that's not updated, please let me know because I am working on that. You have your final notes today, 5-9, which is the simple interest I already mentioned. I do have a Kahoot set up if you guys are interested and there is time in class. And you have your final homework lesson, 5-9. You'll notice that at the bottom it says review packet in parentheses home because you are going to take your paper copy of your review packet home. I will be posting it on Google Classroom because we're remote next week, but I thought it'd be nice to give you a paper copy since you're here in school today. All right. If any of that doesn't make sense, just let me know. Let's review the warm up. The first one was talking about a dozen eggs and how the price is increasing, and we had to figure out the percent increase. Remember, the formula for that is change over original. So from your first price to your second price, you are changing by 17 cents. So notice that is in the top portion of your fraction, your numerator. Then the original is where you started. So the price started at $1.59, so that is what you see in your denominator. You need to divide those values. When you do, you get a really long decimal. Notice it says to the nearest tenth of a percent. When you are changing it to a percent, you need to move it twice to the right. There's where your decimal point goes. Remember, percents are out of 100. So this is 10 in the hundredth, so it'd be 10, and then we're rounding it to the nearest tenth. So we have a 6 in our tenths position, but we need to look to the right to know if it's going to stay at 6 or go up to 7. Since to the right it is 5 or more, raise the score, add one more, that 6 becomes a 7. Your final answer should be 10 and 7/10%. All right? So change over original, you divide, you get a long decimal. You have to move your decimal point twice to the right to make it a percent, and then you had to round up because the number next to the tenths position, that 9, is 5 or more. All right? Be careful with your rounding. Remember, you can use your notes on everything, so you should have this written in your notes. Number 2, here we are talking about estimating and then the actual amount. So this is the formula difference over the actual. It's very, very similar. You're finding how much it's changing by or the difference. Here it is actually 17 grams. And then the actual, they tell you, is 342. So that is your denominator. Again, you're going to divide. Again, you get a long decimal. We are finding the percent error to the nearest whole number. So remember, to change it to a percent, you move it twice to the right. Your decimal goes here in between the 4 and the 9. So if you look below, I have 4.97. Well, we look in the tens position, we have to look to the right of the whole number, which is a 9. Again, 5 or more, raise the score, add one more. That 4 now becomes a 5. To the nearest whole number, this is 5%. All right, so that one was similar. We were just rounding to a different spot, which was a whole number. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on to number 3, talking about a weatherman predicting feet of snow, and then there's the actual amount of snow. Now you had an option here, or two, you had the choice. Do you want to talk about feet or do you want to talk about inches? So I did both to show you in feet. Now remember, we're doing the difference over the actual. So the difference in feet, if you have 1.5 feet of snow and you have 24 inches of snow, the 24 inches is actually 2 feet. So the difference between 1.5 feet and 2 feet is a half a foot. So that's why I have 0.5 or 5/10 in my numerator. So that's the difference. Then the actual, they say the town actually got 24 inches of snow. Well, remember, I changed it to feet because this is my feet section. So 24 inches is 2 feet. That's why I have 2 in the denominator. You need to divide. So 0.5 divided by 2, you get 0.25 or 25 hundredths. To change it to a percent, you move it twice to the right. That's 25%. All right? Now that's feet. If you chose inches, the weatherman predicted 1.5 feet of snow. So you have to know 1 foot is 12 inches and a half a foot is 6 inches. So that's a total of 18 inches. Then you knew it actually got 24 inches. So the difference between 18 and 24 is 6 inches. That's why it's in the numerator. The actual is 24 inches. So you're going to do 6 divided by 24. Notice you get the same exact answer. You get 0.25 or 25 hundredths. You move the decimal point twice to the right, and you're going to again get 25%. All right? So that's number 3. Number 4 is kind of a piggyback off of that. It's talking about how if the town had actually received 10 inches of snow to the nearest tenth of a percent, what would the weatherman's prediction be off by? So the weatherman predicted the 18 inches. It was that 1.5 feet of snow he predicted, and the actual is now 10. So our difference between 18 and 10 is 8. So that goes in the numerator, and the actual now is 10. 8 divided by 10 is 0.8 or 8/10. You move the decimal point twice, but notice you have this space, you have to put a 0. So that is 80%. All right. Kind of threw you off there to the nearest tenth of a percent. There is not a long decimal point, so you don't really need to round it to that. It's just 80%. All right, so that's number 4. On to number 5. Talking about an oil change at Valvoline. The oil change costs the company $24, but they're marking up the price by 70%. So remember, markup, you can do 2 different ways. You can say, okay, what's 70% of that, and then add it on to the original. Or you can just think, all right, well, the original is 100%, and then 70% more would be 170%. So you can just divide by 1 and 7/10 or 1 and 70 hundredths. That's on my right side of my screen here. Again, you're going to get the same answer. They're just 2 different ways to do it. You should get $40.80. All right, so you can either add on that 70%, or take it as 1 in 70 hundredths or 7/10 and just multiply it by the 24. Both work. All right, that's number 5, markup. Number 6, we're talking about people attending the town's annual parade. We are again doing that change over original that we were doing in the beginning. This is percent increase. So how much does it change by? From 750 people to 1,200 people. That's a change of 450. The original is what it started at that last year, the 750. So you divide those values. You're going to get 0.6 or 6/10. You move the decimal point twice to the right because we're talking about percent, and it's 60%. Right? That's 6. On to 7, talking about Brianna and her marbles. Again, we're doing percent error, which is change over original. The change is 30 because 230 to 200, that's a change of 30. The actual is the 200, so you're dividing by that. 30 divided by 200, you get 0.15 or 15 hundredths, which you move the decimal point twice to the right, you get 15%. And that is the warm-up. I know it was a long one, but I'm sure you guys crushed it. If you have any questions, please let me know. You got your final lesson, simple interest. I think you'll like it. It's kind of fun. You got this nice little formula to fill in. So that is on an Edpuzzle. You're going to do that. Once you do that, you do have the option for Kahoot. If you have time, you also have that final homework assignment. And again, you're getting your review packet to take home for when we are remote next week. All right, I'm thinking of you guys. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great weekend. And I can't wait to see your faces on the Google Meet. I'll see you then.